Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Get in the Herd, a recovery podcast brought to you by the McShin Foundation. I'm your host, Alex Bond, a person in recovery from a substance use disorder, which means that since September 23rd, 2019, I've not found the need to put a mood or mind-altering substance in my body. Today, I've got with me Jake and Chloe. How are y'all doing today?
Pretty good. How are you?
Doing great. Happy to be on.
Wonderful. Very happy to have you on. Jake, why don't you introduce yourself to everyone?
Hi, my name's Jake. I'm an addict, a recovering addict.
Hey, Jake.
Hey, Jake.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Chloe, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Chloe. I'm a grateful recovering addict, and yeah, I'm happy to be on the pod in the McShin program. Got my 60 days, working on my 90.
Congratulations. Whoop, whoop.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I'm going to just jump in real quick and say, so Jake, you're all the way from Maine. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So how did you hear about the McShin Foundation? How did you come down all the way from Maine?
So I was currently homeless at the time, and I decided to check into a detox center in Bangor, Maine called I can think of the name of it. But at the detox center I was at, they had this program called Operation Hope. And at Operation Hope, they have this officer from Waterville, Maine named Officer Brule. And Officer Brule does this thing where they have scholarships and they'll pay for you to go to this program, McShin, and then they pay for your plane ticket. So after I finished my 7 days at the detox center, they flew me right over here on my 7th day. And yeah.
So you detoxed in Maine and then flew right down here after the detox.
Correct. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So.
We've had a few other people in the program and even on the pod operate with Operation Hope. Is this your first time trying to get clean?
Kinda. Yeah. Kinda.
What do you mean, kinda?
I don't know. I've attempted to do it by myself a couple of times. I've been to some programs when I was like 16 and 15 years old, and just nothing really stuck. You know what I mean? I only made it like a couple of days, but this was the only one time that I actually wanted it for myself. You know, every single time I tried to do it for any other purpose, it was for someone else and not myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I totally get that. So you finally came to a point where you actually want this.
Yeah, and that's the only way it works, honestly. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you can never really get clean if you're doing it for someone else. You gotta want it yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. That's really cool. I'm glad you made that choice and came down here. So
40 days clean.
Congratulations, brother. That's awesome. And Chloe, so
Yes.
how did you find out about McShin? You actually participate in our day program here and come to groups and have been helping out around here. It's really cool. How did you find out about this place?
Well, I actually started to come to the NA meetings. I just looked up RVA NA over the summer, and this was the closest Hatcher Memorial Baptist. And I actually joined my home group for NA is the first group that I attended an NA meeting. And I know I shopped around for a little bit, but I definitely stuck. I liked the people there, and I was encouraged by the group and the community. And I ended up getting a sponsor who came through the McShin program. And I was doing everything in NA, but I was still missing something. I was missing that community, and I wasn't living my recovery out loud. And I ended up having a relapse, and I went into a major psychosis, and my sponsor is the main reason that I am here and involved with McShin. I came in December and was here for less than 2 days before I was sent to Banyan Treatment Center in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And they were able to give me, I'm a dual diagnosis, so I have mental health issues and also substance use disorder. So they were able to level my meds out and get me more on a normal path and back to myself. And so I spent 2 months there and then came back and started the day program here.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So how long were you down in Florida?
I was there for around 2 months. I spent my Christmas in a psych ward down there, which was not fun. Don't recommend it for anybody, but it was definitely a situation that made me stronger and made me more sound in my sobriety and wanting this for the real this time.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not hiding it from my dad. I'm not hiding it from anyone. I'm living my recovery out loud, and it feels amazing.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's really cool. Yeah, here we are out loud. Honestly, also mentioned a big congratulations to our producer, Todd Widows himself, celebrating 4 years in recovery today.
Oh,
Oh,
congratulations.
really? Congratulations.
Yes,
Big ups.
We're very happy for you,
Yeah.
Todd.
It just feels like another day. She had me do the artwork earlier today,
For yourself.
and and so it just it just made me feel like, okay, this is kind of like I have to toot my own horn, but I wasn't. I get it. I'm not saying it's not something to
I could have done it for you.
I'm definitely very proud. I'm very happy about it. But it was odd doing my own artwork, for the 4 years. So
You earned it.
Yeah.
I'm really happy for you, man. Seriously. So just to kind of like jump back into it. So Chloe, you went to Banyan for a couple months, have dual diagnosis.
Yes.
Were you using to kind of self-medicate some mental health illness, or do you think the mental health stuff came from using?
Well, my situation's very unique.
Okay.
I have degenerative disc disease.
What is that?
So it's a degenerative condition with your spine, the discs in between your vertebrae. I got diagnosed with that when I was 12. And so they started prescribing me pain medicine and like hard prescriptions, like everything under the sun I've been on. For 10 years of my life, I was in a circle of having surgeries, trying to wean off the pain meds, have another surgery, trying to wean off the pain meds. And until I got caught with some cocaine in my system, when they took it all away after 10 years, I was on narcotics of some sort. And it caused me to isolate because of my pain. I was stuck in bed because I didn't go to a full year of school past 6th grade. I was homebound.
Wow.
So I had a lot of things stacked against me, and also addiction runs in my family. But I was able to actually detox off of all of my medications in less than a month. Hardest the damn thing that I've ever done.
I believe it. Yeah.
I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. And I made it through it. And that's actually when my real active addiction started. I became my own medicine man of sorts. And having untreated mental disorders. I'm in school to become an LPC or a CSAC. I haven't decided yet, but definitely.
What are those to those that might not know what that is?
Licensed professional counselor.
Okay.
Or
and a certified substance abuse counselor, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so
that's really cool.
Thank you. And that's why I really love this program and the peer-to-peer led, and been able to take a couple girls under my wing and mentor them that are newer. And I really like that aspect of things. And when I was at Banyan, I was able to, lead groups here and there when I could, and just try to mentor to the fellow people that are suffering because of the schooling that I've gotten so far. And because of my own situation, I'm able to come at it more as a peer mentor, not a talking down, not talking down, but someone that hasn't
an
been
authority figure.
Yeah. I'm not authoritative at all. I'm able to come at it from, hey, we've both been there. And I found that now that I'm able to live my story out loud, I'm not ashamed of hey, can you pick that up off the ground for me? Because I can't really bend over. I have 18 levels fused in my spine. I have metal running up and down my spine. So I can't bend, lift, or twist. And right now I had a couple falls prior to me going to Banyan. So I have a few blown discs, but my surgeon said it's too close to my relapse. He doesn't want to do surgery or recommend it right now. So I'm having to learn patience, having to learn to, I've been saying this serenity prayer over and over and over. And the things that I cannot control, I have to let them go. And it's been really hard to do that.
Well, it's interesting because there's got to be this sort of overlap in conversation about your treatment plan versus your recovery plan.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So what I'm hearing is a lot of doctors and treatment professionals and people who deal with the mental health subscribe a treatment plan for you that you then have to follow while also trying to figure out what your recovery plan is for the peer, on a peer recovery model.
Yeah.
Which it sounds like you're doing both successfully, except we all have obstacles and struggles throughout that experience.
Of course.
Yeah. Jake, I want to ask you. So one kind of thing that I think you and Chloe both have going on is that you both use MAT, medically assisted treatment.
Yeah.
Has that always been a thing for you? Is that something that is a long-term solution? What are kind of like your experiences with that?
I don't know. I've been on and tried it on and off over the years. You know what I mean? Like for the most part, it does work for me, but I don't think it's anything I want to do long term. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Kind of feel groggy sometimes.
Yeah.
You kind of feel groggy sometimes?
Yeah. So,
How does it help you?
I don't know. It's just, I don't know. It's kind of like one in naloxone, you know what I mean? Makes it so you don't have the cravings and stuff like that. And
Okay.
just like, I don't know, the buprenorphine, that kind of like, I don't know, just that part I'm not the biggest fan of, you know what I mean? It's nothing I want to be on for the rest of my life,
Mhm.
you know what I mean? But
So aside from that, what other things go into your recovery plan or pathway?
I don't know, I've been enjoying NA meetings.
Yeah.
I like
Mhm.
NA meetings, and I feel like it helps.
The fellowship is great.
Yeah, the fellowship's great. Every single meeting, you know, you kind of like relate with anyone that talks and shares and stuff like that, and you kind of get every single meeting, I get something out of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, then there's like different types of meetings for different people. You actually mentioned the other day, Chloe, that there is a MAT specific meeting. Can you actually kind of describe what that is and your experience with it?
Well, it just came across my path last week. My home group starts at 6 downstairs in the big room. And I was walking out of it, went to go pick up my book bag from the conference room, and there was a few people in there. They're like, "Hey, we're starting a new meeting. It's medically assisted treatment, like anonymous." And they're actually meeting 7:30 Thursday nights at Hatcher Memorial down in the big room. We're starting it, and it's for people like us that are what's the
MAT.
MAT. Thank you.
Is that new?
It's brand new. It's actually the first meetings tonight. So I don't know that much about it. I'm really excited about the program. I've done some research and just
check it out.
Yeah, it's something
Yeah,
that's
cool.
going to be really cool. It's very low, non-judgmental, but it also works like a 12-step program too, and it has that community about it. So you're gonna have to come tonight and ask the people that are actually really starting it. Jeremy's chairing it tonight. So.
Sure.
Yeah, that's interesting because you used one word that I feel like it's growing to become even more non-judgmental, but I feel like especially 20 years ago or something like that, there was a lot of judgment to MAT and people who were using MAT in general. Is that why you consider something like a MAT specific meeting is because of to kind of take that judgment off the table, Jake?
Yeah, that makes sense. I don't know. I definitely feel like it's nothing to be frowned upon if it works for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. You got to find something that works for you, and if it works, it works. You know?
So do you think there should be more access to medically assisted treatment?
Yeah, if it's done right, I believe so, yeah.
If it's done right?
Yeah.
What do you think, Chloe?
I definitely believe there should be more access to it. I feel like it's something that people aren't aware of, that there are different pathways. Like you don't have to click cold turkey like I did. I didn't seek out treatment the first time around when I decided, I had to get off of all my pain medication, and it was the worst experience of my life. And it led me to actually using more street drugs. And lying more and being more manipulative, being more isolated. Then add COVID on top of that. Oh my gosh, like isolation central.
Yeah.
And I know COVID's hit a lot of my family members that have never had any mental health like diagnosis have dealt with serious depression, serious isolation factors and anxiety. And it's mind-boggling to me that this is something that so many people are dealing with, but are so scared to talk about. And so destigmatizing that along with the substance use, because that comes hand in hand. Like you need to get that stigma all away. And that's why I am living out loud and I'm doing it today.
Yeah, no, it's really impressive and it shows. It's a good color on both of y'all for sure. Do you think, Jake, that do you have any sort of other mental health?
Yeah, I have depression, anxiety, PTSD, ADHD, and OCD.
How is it dealing with substance use disorder and all these other mental health illness at the same time? Do you I guess my question is, do you deal with the mental health stuff and then substance use stuff? Do you deal with substance use stuff and then mental health stuff? Or does it have to work at the exact same time? I'm just kind of, what's that process look
Currently, I'd like to get more into more mental health counseling and stuff like that. It's nothing I'm not really dealing with that right now at the moment. I just, because since I'm new to Virginia, you know what I mean, I gotta get doctors in place and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
in the past, always just self-medicated. You know what I mean? It was hard to tell where the line started and beginning with my, my drug addiction and my mental health.
Mhm.
You know
I
what I
think
mean?
that's part of the reason why I had such a hard time accepting that I am an addict, because I was like, I need these medications, I need
just
these
need to
drugs
feel normal. You know
to
what I
feel
mean?
normal,
Mhm.
to feel like a functioning human adult.
But then once you're like deep in your drug addiction, it just messes up the chemicals in your brain and stuff like that, and it probably just makes it worse. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, you're messing with the
screwing your
neurotransmitters and everything
neurotransmitters,
at
your
that.
serotonin, your dopamine. all
Yeah.
that, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
I mean, depression, anxiety, that doesn't help. You know what I mean?
No.
You think it helps at the short time, short term, but in the long term, it's just probably doing more damage than good.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
So when Chloe was talking earlier about isolation, you seem to agree that was kind of part of your symptoms
Yeah,
to your mental health and substance use
I used
disorder.
to isolate myself even before COVID. I went through like a 2-year period where I just didn't see anyone. I just locked myself in my room, did drugs for years.
Yeah.
So how do you get out of that cycle of that being your move? Because that's what happens when we're using or even trying to change our way of thinking. Is it's usually a subconscious, or it's just our gut trigger. Whatever. It's just like our move is the best way that I can call it, is I just do things without even thinking about it. How do you kind of break that cycle?
You just got to find some way to make yourself feel good about yourself. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I was just like ashamed of my drug addiction. Just, didn't want to go out in public. You know what I mean? Just hide myself. Just, I don't know. Just kind of like work on my mental health. You know what I mean? I don't know. Just.
The thing about it is, it goes like, I was looking at the comments that Sarah put up, and she's right. It's definitely you must treat both at the same time. You have to be aware, but it's hard to grasp the idea of treating these two simultaneously, because there are so many different approaches. Not everyone's going to be the right way. I agree. It's definitely the chicken and the egg. Like, it doesn't matter which came first.
They kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah, it's all in the DSM-5. Like, they're very similar. One of the classes I took last semester, I had to go through, and it was my psych class, and pick 5 disorders out and write an entire whole power presentation and everything, and dive into them. And one of them was substance use disorder. I took my own mental health diagnoses and put them into my project. So I was able to learn a lot about myself in that situation. But the one thing I learned mostly through especially my relapse was, you can't be your own doctor. You need to get the professional help in, the peer counseling, the people that have been through this situation before. And I found some really good, trusted people through the McShin Foundation that I can rely on. And even my time at Banyan, I've kept up with some of the other participants that have gone through there. And it's been beneficial for my mental health to have that check-in, keep up with these people that we went through such a hard time and such a stressful time, and we're all isolated and also experiencing COVID and just all this stuff. And it's very emotional for me to actually look back on it and be able to be I'm actually grateful for that time. As stressed out as it was, there was great times that we had. And it was fun in rehab. You gotta have fun in recovery. You gotta have fun in rehab, right?
It's gonna be miserable. You're not gonna learn anything.
Yeah.
So we talk often on this show about how we can better support people in recovery, and the word recovery is usually associated with recovery from substance use disorder, but it's also the same for mental health, any sort of mental health illness. So what, Jake and Chloe, do you think that we as a society, and even more specifically we at McShin, can do better to support recovery from mental health?
I don't know. I feel like you guys have all the resources pretty much. I haven't had any complaints. You know what I mean? Pretty much what I've seen, anything you need, really, you can have access to. You know what I mean?
I think it's all about like making it aware that like I've always been told the worst thing that you can do when asking is told no. So I'll pursue something until someone's like, no, we can't do that. So like try to get all those resources, like look online, Google it, see what else is around your area. Like if you need mental health treatment and you're not in this area, like there's things out there, there's resources, there's NAMI, National Alliance on Mental Health or Mental Illness is one of the greatest resources. They can align you with a bunch of different charities and stuff that they work with. And I feel like it's hard to treat in this setting because it's a more relaxed, like not like you're not intensive institutionalized setting. So you're not getting that like constant psychiatric work that you would get if you went to like a rehab facility. Like
you just got to be not afraid to ask. You know what I mean?
You got to step up and be yourself.
If you don't ask, you're not going to solve any problems.
You can't hide in the corner. You need to actually jump in and be part of the herd.
You got to be open out front, know what you want. You know what I mean? Ask for help.
Yeah, because that's the thing. When you go to a rehab, you pay for the services and you pay for people to watch you and look out for what they think is best for you. Yeah. But in a place like this, it gives you the freedom to kind of, get whatever resources you need and choose your own pathway, which is kind of,
you got to pursue it.
Yeah. What I'm hearing y'all say is that it definitely is more of like you're a master of your own destiny. All you got to do is open up your mouth and try to actively ask people what these resources are.
Like let's look back at our active addiction, how hard we worked for that drug.
Yeah.
You need to pursue your recovery as hard, if not harder than that.
And chase your recovery like you chase your dope.
Yep. Chase your recovery like you chase your dope. And it's one of the things I've run into here is you guys are busy. You guys do a lot. And so like I always feel like I'm interrupting, but I'm also like walking that fine line between I need that help or I want that help and I don't want to be overbearing and asking too much. So
I always hear the staff say if you need something, ask, because that's what they're here for.
And everyone that I've talked to will stop what they're doing and put their like computer away and just talk to me, even if it's just like I just need 5 minutes to vent. And I really much appreciate that here.
Yeah, I do notice a lot of people are like too nervous or scared to ask for help and they kind of expect it to come to them, but you gotta actively seek it out.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what I'm perceiving as like y'all's role could be is advocating to other people. Y'all got to take advantage of your own destiny. You know what I'm saying? Instead of like, no, I just think that's really well said. I want to touch on a couple comments that came in. Sarah said that the DSM-5 helps us separate and group symptoms, but real psych care must include the art of interpersonal relationship and empathy. I think that's really well said. I think that's what I consider the peer-to-peer model to be, is interpersonal relationship and empathy. And she also said that all MAT clinics need to include psych therapy, peer case management, and energy medicine, including plant medicine.
Yeah.
Peer case management, the peer recovery specialist is definitely something that has kind of been in place, but I think there's not enough maybe access to training as well as like people who are actually hiring it. It's still a process where, peer recovery specialists, and in this case, I think she's referring to it as peer case management. They're not paid by there's not enough funding for them to get government funding to be paid for. And the people who need that and those services more often don't have the finances to afford it themselves. No. So if insurance isn't paying for it and the government isn't paying for it, it's just so much more difficult. So that's kind of where the advocacy piece comes in and doing stuff like we're doing right now. I also want to touch on what Gary just said. Mental health stabilization is just as important as being sober. You can't address one and not the other, or you will use again.
Yeah, Gary's right. That's exactly what led to my relapse.
That's what led to your relapse was just focusing on one instead of the other.
Yeah, I wasn't taking care of my mental health, and it led to me picking up a substance again, and I just dealt with it. I had a fall, so I had increased pain, which made me want to self-medicate more. And I already had it in my head. Everyone says, when you're gonna relapse way before you actually do. Sure. And my sponsor even called me out on it, and she called me out on my stuff, and she was like, Yeah, I knew far before you relapsed that you were going to relapse and you came clean. Like, I was pulling away, not coming to my home group as much. And I was also finishing up. I took 18 credits last semester. So I was
Wow, that's a lot.
yeah, never going to do that to myself ever again. It was hard.
That sounds overwhelming.
Yeah. So like I was doing that, but I was kicking butt at it. And like I was very driven in like school growing up. It was something that I could control. And because of my health, I've had to like put my schooling aside for a little bit because I've had a lot of surgeries and had to do recovery and just really couldn't stay in school for a semester without having to go out for a surgery. So like it's been really good that I can get some schooling under my belt, and I'm going back in May, but I'm taking this time off to really focus on my sobriety, my recovery, and my mental health, getting it all aligned so that I can go back and be the best version of Chloe that I can be in school.
It's cool taking that time to like, work on self-care and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's important. Jake, in the conversations that like we've had prior to this and like off camera and in my office and stuff like that, I've found that you're pretty knowledgeable on kind of like the neuropathy of the disease, the serotonin levels, the more scientific of what happens.
Yeah.
I think that's very fascinating. Is there anything that you've like learned in some of your readings or any of the classes that you wanted to share that maybe I might not know, that any of the listeners might not know? I just think that you do have like a pretty impressive wealth of knowledge and kind of that sort of facet of stuff.
On anything specific? Or,
yeah, whatever.
I don't know. Not really good on top of my head.
What about like I think you mentioned that like a lot of it is habit forming.
Yeah.
Is that, I guess what I'm trying to ask is this more of like a habit, or is it something that is designed in our heads? The moment I'm born, if I pick up, I will be an addict, or is it kind of the fact that I habitually keep doing it over and over again? That's what makes me an addict.
I think it's a mix between both. I'm a special case though. I kind of like had a fascination for drugs before I even started doing them. So I kind of like sought out drugs.
From like a curiosity experimentation standpoint.
It's just research, and I found it like just fascinating. I kind of just dove into it, sought it out, which kind of was my downfall.
Okay.
I don't know, just
no, I kind of did too, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember being in school doing like a PowerPoint on like why the drinking age should be 18.
Yeah.
Like this weird fascination with like drug
Erowid.org was
culture
like
and stuff like
my
that.
dictionary.
I mean, that's when I first started to go to school. Before I even knew what I wanted to do with my life, I was taking a drug use and abuse class because I just wanted to know more. I've always found it fascinating. And that was prior to my active addiction. That was still while I was on medications and taking them as prescribed and not abusing them. So it's definitely something that I've grown up, like I've had that medical side of it, just being in doctor's offices my entire life.
I feel like that's one thing we have in common too, is like we're both kind of like raised on pharmaceuticals essentially.
Yeah,
so I was like,
sure.
I was put on Adderall 30 milligrams at 3 years old, from like 3 years old to like 22 years old.
And that robs
like,
your brain of the dopamine and serotonin.
So like I was just like exposed to like amphetamines at like such a young age, and like
so that when you get kind of like that dopamine that release that you're supposed to get when certain things happen, say like something good happens to me, it doesn't feel, I'm not getting as much of that dopamine release because of what the drugs are doing in my body.
My whole childhood I was like a zombie, all my school pictures, I was just like high, zombied out, like damn, man, a bunch of like 1,000 milligrams of Seroquel in like 6th grade. Like,
I was on Seroquel. I've been on I'm on Trazodone now. I'm on like a bunch of, I could list off all the different like.
I feel like my brain was just like hardwired from a young age just to be like.
I mean, the doctors were prescribing me fentanyl patches.
Yeah, I remember you saying that.
Well, before like fentanyl became such a big street, and like no one, I took for 3 years. So from when I was 14 to 17, I was on them.
Yeah.
And like my parents, my family, they could tell like I was numbed. And like I didn't see it as much as I can see it now, like in this more recovery, sober mindset. But like I have so much more energy. And even though I'm in pain, I'm able to like get through it more and have that like self-control, and it's like not in the forefront of my brain. Like when I was on those drugs, that's all I thought about was the next time I'm going to take a pain pill. And I was literally like raised to think like a pill can fix it all.
Yeah,
Sure.
same here. Like,
It's an interesting thing to have to unlearn, is that like, and what I'm hearing you say is kind of like the spiritual and the peer piece is kind of what keeps us moving.
Yeah, for sure.
Despite all of that mindset. I wanted to touch on some things in the comment section. So not only, again, is Todd celebrating 4 years today, but our lovely co-host who's usually here, Nathan Mitchell, is celebrating 3 years today.
Is it Nathan
So
too?
a big congratulations to
Where is
Nathan.
Nathan?
Nathan's
Nathan
gone.
and Todd
Congrats,
have the
Nathan.
same clean date, and I just think that's
Nathan,
so lovely.
congratulations.
I was looking for Nathan earlier.
And can you?
Nathan's hiding under the covers at home. He has
Oh,
no heat
come
right
on,
now.
Nathan.
Oh yeah, I remember him saying that yesterday.
The one day I wanted to drink coffee, Nathan. I couldn't find you.
Because Nathan has so much coffee on deck all the time. It's lovely. Yeah, I wanted to read that one that Sarah said that opioids actually changed the number and the state of dopamine receptors, kind of how we were talking about. So it jacks the shit out of them and changes the brain, opioids specifically. And I just thought that was fascinating. The more I actually like learn about the chemical and scientific side of stuff and how it works in my brain, the more I am convinced, as if I wasn't already, that this is a disease and a disorder.
Yeah.
And like
Illness
the
of the
Ross
mind.
faction. Yeah, exactly. And people usually, back in the day, and still, honestly, to this day, there are groups of people who still consider
It's
this
a
like
choice.
a moral failing.
Yeah.
Is what it is.
You made a choice to do drugs.
Yeah, can you elaborate that? Have you been told that before,
Oh,
Jay?
yeah.
Yeah.
Plenty of times. Like, oh, you chose to do drugs, blah, blah, blah.
This was your choice.
This
it
was your
wasn't-
choice.
Yeah.
I was force-fed drugs. I mean, 3
Same.
years old, for my whole childhood. you
My
know what I mean?
cousin
Like,
Josh was.
I feel like I
he's-
never stood a chance, honestly.
Yeah, my
You know what I
cousin
mean?
Josh has always been my biggest support system when it comes to this, because he's had like a passenger side view my entire life of like my surgeries and my like usage and like
So he's watched your growth in addiction.
everything, and he's seen how it's just like I got a shit card stacked. Like
Mhm.
the cards that I
You got a
were
bad
dealt.
hand.
Bad
Yeah.
hand,
Yeah.
real bad hand. But it's all about how you play your hand, and I like to play goldfish.
Yeah.
I like to-
Goldfish. Now we got.
Yeah.
And that's the cool thing about goldfish is they have like the shortest memory. So that's
Yeah.
kind of how I think about like that's why they're the happiest. Is
They're-
because they
they're
forget
golden.
all the bad stuff that
Yeah.
already happened and you just keep it moving forward. That's kind of
And
you
that
know,
was also
it's kinda
actually like me
inspirational.
while I was on all the opioids. Like my memory, like once I got off of them after my like 10-year lap, there was so much that like it was like epiphany after epiphany after epiphany, and I was remembering things that like happened throughout that time that like I just couldn't remember.
Mhm.
It was insane to me how much of my memory came back. Some of it good, but also a lot of it bad. And so like I had to deal, like I'm diagnosed with anxiety, depression, and PTSD. And my PTSD factors, like I've gotten a lot of other things that involve, but it will have to do with like my surgical and just growing up. My parents are divorced. So
Mine
like I
too.
grew up in a
same.
woo. I help run a divorce recovery program through my church. It's something I
That's
do.
interesting.
It's the best thing that has helped me. I work with teenagers of divorce, and every fall my mom and I do this, and it's the greatest thing for not only my recovery, but my recovery from my parents' divorce.
Mhm.
And like what I learned from these kids, it's amazing. And their strength they show, it's impeccable. It's really something.
I'm glad that you said that the things that you learn from these kids
Yeah.
instead of the other way around
Yeah, no.
is pretty interesting because like how generations move through time and when I was 12 years old is completely different than how a 12-year-old operates now. Just
Kids are getting smart.
they
Oh,
are,
yeah.
and the introduction of technology into daily lives is just like completely different than
2-year-olds
when I
have
was a
tablets
kid.
nowadays.
Yeah,
Oh yeah. My
No.
little sister turned 9 and she got a smartwatch. And
We
I'm
didn't,
like,
we didn't get dial-up. We
Yeah, I
didn't,
had like a
we
Yeah.
didn't
mini
get
clip.
dial-up till we were like 12, 13 years old.
I remember my first flip phone. Like no,
Yeah.
no touch screen here.
Yeah.
Is that kind of where some of your PTSD also comes from? Jake, is being a child of divorce?
That was actually my parents divorced when I was 11, and then I started snorting pills at 12 years old, and then it just kind of progressed to when I was 14 and started shooting up, and then just from there it was game over.
Yeah.
I just felt so depressed and just like lost and
It
stuff
all
like
goes
that.
hand
Yeah,
in
man.
hand.
And that's what they mean when this is a progressive illness.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people don't understand what that means, and progressive literally just means that it gets worse and worse over time the longer that we stay in active addiction.
I just always was so depressed and just wanted something to shut my brain off, just disconnect, and just from the ADHD and OCD, my mind's just always racing and just so many thoughts.
So you needed a way to use to
I
escape.
just needed a way to just shut my mind off for a minute.
That's exactly how I was doing
Escape the
it.
thoughts, you know what I mean? Like,
Being able to just hush your brain, hush your, I could be right here telling you my neck's hurting, my back's hurting, but I'm not focused on that today. But when I was in active addiction, my only fear and my only thing that I wanted to do was to numb my pain, my physical pain.
Yeah.
And I noticed I was having a serious problem when I wasn't numbing my physical pain, I was numbing my emotional pain. And it was something that I was at that point, that's when I decided to go to NA over the summer. And I didn't tell really anybody about it. I was really hush hush. And now I can look back and know that's where I was wrong. And if I had done it this way the first time around, it would have saved me a lot of relapse and a psychosis, and it would be great. But I'm grateful now for my relapse because it brought to light my situation and my disease in full to my family and the people that care about me. And now I can lead by example for my younger siblings. Don't do what I had to go through. Listen to me. Feel like they can talk to me about things.
Pretty sure I scared any of my siblings from even wanting to try drugs.
Yeah, I know, right? Don't do drugs, kids. Seriously.
Pretty much.
Is there anything that you've learned going to school to become an LPC or CSAC that you might want to share with anyone? Because I don't have the educational side of it. I've just got the peer experience.
See, that's
I'd love
where
to be able to do that.
stuff.
I hold back on that because I'm not the one that's going to diagnose you.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the things they teach is I don't have my degree. I'm not licensed. And it's really hard once you go through a bunch of psych courses and different health and human services courses to not analyze other people. But the one thing that I will say is if everyone should take a course on cognitive behavioral therapy and just how people interact or
what is that? I know what is cognitive behavioral therapy?
Cognitive behavioral therapy is how the brain works and how you interact with people. So it's if you go
It's retraining your brain.
It's a different way. It's a conversation. It's a dialogue between two people.
So I want to try Smart Recovery.
Smart Recovery is based off the CBT. Yeah. And they have meetings here at 6 on Fridays.
I know. I've been meaning to try them out.
Yeah, we have handbooks.
I think it's Friday at 7, right?
6.
6,
Yeah. There's handbooks down in Jesse's office if you want to grab one.
I'll have to grab one.
Yeah. But that's why I actually really like Smart Recovery because it's based off of one, it's you can crosstalk and it's a smaller group and setting. And I've been shopping around trying to, things keep popping up. It's my ADHD brain. Yeah.
Squirrel.
Yeah, squirrel, literally. I guess from my own experience in schooling and also just my experience over the last 6 months and my relapse and everything that went through is the 3 things I can tell you is you're not alone. There's people in the field that have suffered through it too, and you'll find those people and latch on to those people. Latch on to find a good counselor. Finding a good counselor is shopping for the right doctor or the right sponsor. Sponsorship is where it's at. I wouldn't be sitting in this chair today. I wouldn't even be on this earth today if it wasn't for my sponsor. She was the one that called out my relapse and knew something was really bad and ended up saving my life. So shout out to Kim, you the best.
So how do you know what were some of those signs? You've mentioned it a couple times now that your sponsor could tell when you were kind of having a mental recurrence of use. What does that look like for you?
So for me, growing up, it's kind of funny. One of the telltales for when I'm having like a psychosis come up and everything is growing up, my grandparents used to send us on treasure hunts. And over Christmas for like our treasure presents. Like we would go on scavenger hunts.
That sounds fun.
Yeah, it was
It does
great.
sound fun.
And so like I somehow go back to that mentality of I'm on a scavenger hunt, but it's a bigger thing. I get very paranoid. I feel like I need to collect and clean. And it also goes back to my first time having a psychosis 2 years ago, or not last fall, but the fall before. My ex and I, we were together and he was not good for me. Something that was also contributes to a lot of PTSD and everything, but he was starting back in school. And I had an appointment with my spine surgeon, and he was like, "You looks like you're going towards another surgery." And that mixed with some drugs led me into a psychosis. And so I was frantically cleaning and everything and just looking for signs, looking for my family, going back to my roots, like going back to my church and things that I did as a child where I felt comfortable. And that ended up getting me thrown in a psych ward for 3 weeks and then sent off to a rehab that I was there for 2 weeks, and I got medically withdrawn because I came home and had surgery.
Mm-hmm.
And since then, nothing really popped up. Nothing. Sorry, I'm trying to. It's been a year and a half for me. It's been a lot. But I'm sitting here smiling today because I'm still here.
Yeah, you're doing great.
Yeah, that's
Thanks.
awesome.
And it's been a great outlet, like here to finally find like a herd to be part of. And I'm grateful for all you guys. And the one thing that I can say is like the isolation, it doesn't matter if you have a mental illness or not, like it's affecting everyone in this pandemic. So reach out to your friends, reach out to your family, send that text that you're not sure about because you don't know how it's going to change someone's day.
Yeah.
That's good advice.
Sure.
I appreciate you sharing all that with us.
Yeah, sorry, I just kind of took over.
No, please.
You're
It's
doing good.
open dialogue.
Yeah.
I'm having a blast here, honestly. Todd, you got anything?
What up, Todd?
No, I mean, I'm just really impressed with the banter and the conversation back and forth and how it's kind of carrying itself, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's good. It's a subject we don't talk about enough.
No.
It needs to be addressed more. I didn't necessarily know that was going to be the way we were going today, but I'm glad that we are because, like I said, I mean, this is a conversation that needs to be out there a lot more than we really.
Yeah, and I'm grateful to have this outlet and to be able to talk to people out there. Like one of my goals is like if I can reach someone or talk to someone and like if they can feel like a connection in some way or feel like, oh yeah, like that I relate to that person. Like I've done my job. Like I want to get out there and advocate for the people that didn't get a chance to. Finding your higher power. My higher power is that empty chair for the sick and suffering.
Yeah, I always like that.
Like that's my higher power. That's why I do what I do. That's why I reach out and try to attract the people that are feeling excluded in because I've been there a lot.
That's why I like the peer-to-peer thing. It just makes you feel more comfortable. And, you know what I mean? I always have a hard time in a clinical setting where some doctor with some degree that has no experience of real addiction, you know, trying to tell you what's what.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like I've tried clinical settings plenty of times. It's never worked. You know, and
yeah, this is the first program that I feel comfortable enough, like sharing what I just shared. Like
the detox center I went to, actually just remember her name was Wellsprings in Bangor, but they were peer-to-peer too at Wellsprings. You know, every single person at Wellsprings was a former addict, like the nurses.
So it was a treatment center, but it was also peer-to-peer?
Yeah, it's a detox center, but also peer-to-peer.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
That's
so
awesome,
that was my first experience with that. You know, I did like a St. Mary's detox before, but that was just like kind of terrible. You know what I mean? So like being able to talk to all the nurses and doctors and like seeing like how they seeing how they like, you know, came up and like suffered from addiction too, like me, but they're like actually doing something like real with their lives, you know what I mean? Like, you know, it just helps a lot.
it really does.
No, yeah, that's really cool because I can't remember his name, Todd, but we had a guy who was like a peer with drug court. and you don't see that a lot. You don't hear a lot of like peers in treatment either, you know, or working in treatment centers. So I think there needs to be more peers and people in recovery who are in these, you know, occupation sectors that aren't typically peer run or peer organized or anything like that. I think it just has such an extra leg up. And I also wanted to touch on the fact that, like, you know, people with mental health illness are often stigmatized, and people with a substance use disorder are often stigmatized, but we don't hear often enough about the people who got both.
Dual diagnoses.
Yeah. So the people,
I didn't even know it was a thing until I went off to Banyan. I was like, wait, that's something that exists. Like that's completely me. I found that label that I happily will take.
Yeah, and I learned what?
I said it's got another word for it.
Co-occurring
disorders.
Yeah, I think co-occurring is the more modern correct nomenclature to use. But I do know that when I went to an IOP, intensive outpatient program, that was court ordered, the guy that ran it, who was very intelligent, told me that the gene that determines addiction and alcoholism is also the one that determines a lot of mental health stuff, specifically ADD. And then I was diagnosed as ADD after taking this written exam and was put on ADD medication. And I didn't like it.
IOP was my downfall.
Really?
Yeah, I had got caught with alcohol at 14 years old, and they sent me to an adolescent IOP program where I met this person who was shooting oxys. And
so that introduced you to harder drugs.
That introduced me to other people and harder drugs. So I started hanging out with this girl, and and then she started shooting me up at 14. She dropped me off back at my house afterwards, gave me some needles, gave me some extra pills, and then actually got expelled from high school the next day.
You did?
Yep. And then it was just a full-blown IV user until I came to a detox program 14 years.
So you think that actually getting introduced to IOP at 14 at that young was kind of like overkill in terms of like they were it was too much of a punishment or too much of a
exposure?
It's like a bad exposure for me, honestly.
Like, really early on.
Got caught with a fifth of vodka and then put me in there for a bunch of people that were doing a lot harder drugs.
Yeah.
You know?
Wow.
And then they sent me to drug court after that. I did drug court from 15 to 16 years old. And I was actually still shooting up in drug court.
What was your experience with drug court like? Too much? Well, because I've heard good.
I did adolescent drug court, which was pretty chill. I know I had to go to the court twice a week, get drug tested twice a week, and then go before the judge once a week. And then I did it flawlessly all the way through. I didn't get in any trouble or anything like that, even though I was still using it.
So you graduated even using the whole time?
Yeah, I was shooting Suboxone, I think, while during it, and then doing like methadone and like acid and just like a lot of things. Yeah, but
that is fascinating.
But I still completed it.
Yeah, there's always ways around it.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because, you know, at the end, one, you clearly weren't ready, is what I'm hearing you say, is you weren't ready to get clean.
I wish I was.
And that you actually gamed the system. So it kind of makes you wonder how successful is it?
Yeah.
I feel like, you know, being with people with this disease, we can manipulate very easily until we're just cheating ourselves.
Yeah,
is what my experience is once I start lying, cheating, and stealing, I can get away with it, but it's only between me and my higher power, and I'm not willing to do that. You know what I'm saying? Sacrifice that.
You're just slowly killing your soul.
That freedom of self-governance.
I think part of my problem too was I had lost, like, I grew up in the church and I lost my higher power. Like, I left the church. And I would say I'm more spiritual than like church going religious now.
Same.
But like through NA and through the fellowship, I would like slowly have accepted back into my life a higher power. But it's a higher power of my own understanding.
Mm-hmm.
It's that my own understanding aspect that I just no one ever told me. Like, it doesn't have to be like a white man up in the sky. Like, that's why I share that whole sick and suffering chair thing, because that's what gets me up and going, because I want to help the sick and suffering.
That's something I always struggled with, is the higher power.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And like, you know, your higher power, it could be this table right now. It could be us circling around here and being able to share what we're talking about here, and like venturing out into the great interweb and sharing our thoughts and our stories. And you never know who you're going to touch or help out, or who like could catch wind of this and be like, I need to talk to that person, or I need to go through that program, or maybe I'm interested in like cognitive behavioral therapy approach, or there's other pathways besides a 12-step program. Like, it's
Dharma
amazing.
recovery sounds fun.
Dharma looks really, really cool.
We should check out Dharma recovery meetings.
Yeah, we should. That would be
That's
fun.
what's so
I'd
cool
totally
about
go
you.
with
You two are just like, let's try it all, man. 'Cause
Yeah.
a lot of people are kind of like NA or die, or like, I just need my MAT and then I'll be fine. But y'all have mentioned 4 or 5 different pathways to recovery in this last 50 minutes that I think is really powerful, because we don't talk about it often enough. Like Dharma recovery, smart recovery, cognitive behavior therapy. I mean, there are numerous options that are very easily accessible. You just got to ask, or like do some research.
Yeah, it's all at the tips of your fingertips on the internet.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then you also have all these great resources in the staff here that like, if I have a question about anything, I can go to any of you guys and be like, hey, so can I do this such and such this way? And you'll give me an answer.
Shout out to Matt G for being a big help.
Matt G is
Matt
the man.
G.
Yeah.
So before we wrap up, I guess
Sunday, February 20th.
Nathan says
What?
there's a recovery Dharma meeting coming to Hatcher on Sunday, February 28th at 6 p.m.
Nathan just like mic drop right
slide
there.
through Sunday, February 28th, 6 p.m. Recovery Dharma.
I will be
Smart
there.
recovery, 6 o'clock tomorrow.
Yeah.
MAT tonight at 7:30. I mean,
Yeah.
and then NA and AA meetings twice a day.
We got them
every
all,
day.
man. We got them all.
That's really cool. Before we close out, Jake, any other closing remarks, final words of wisdom?
Don't do drugs.
Don't do drugs. Short and simple. Chloe, any other lasting words?
Keep your friends close and keep your family closer.
Aw, that's really good. Todd?
Just keep putting one foot in front of the other, and before you know it, you'll be a lot farther than you realize.
There you go.
I like
Words
that.
of wisdom.
Yeah.
That's like this bracelet I got
For
from
the
your office.
birthday boy.
Anywhere but backwards.
Anywhere but backwards. Shout out to Michael Williams and the crew. That's their little slogan. Anywhere but backwards. We love that.
Yeah, I like that one.
Yeah. Just keep doing the thing one day at a time. Don't use, no matter what.
No matter what.
Just don't pick up.
This has been Getting the Herd. I really appreciate having y'all on, guys.
Thanks for having
No problem.
It was
Thanks
a
for having
blast. Again, big congratulations to Todd and Nathan for their clean 4 years and 3 years clean, respectively. And
Every day is a miracle.
just keep doing the thing.
Yeah.
This has been Getting the Herd. Peace out.
My name is Shannon Lance. I'm currently here in recovery at McShin Foundation. I got out of jail on January 10th, 2021, and while I was incarcerated there, my mother passed away due to COVID complications on December 14th. It was a really challenging event in my life. While I was incarcerated there, I watched the recovery videos and the podcast on the tablets there, that was made by the McShin Foundation. Getting the Herd podcast really made me feel like I was a part of something on the outside, because, there's people that are commenting and just seeing, people that I was incarcerated with on the videos, and just thinking, man, that's going to be me, before too long. And, I'm going to be sitting there in them rooms and, be able to be a part of the podcast and Getting the Herd series. And, now I'm a part of the Herd here at McShin, and it's an amazing feeling, and it's nice having a fulfilled sense of hope in my life currently, and just to live one day at a time, and just to have positive feelings in my life and good relationships with my family and friends is an amazing event.